This little video is about forms in Cameo. Cameo manages your membership data for you, but until now you had to write code on your main website to provide self-service forms for things like joining, updates and other membership management. You can still do that using Cameo's Programmer API, but Cameo's forms now provide a non-programmer way to put these on your website. So we're going to use the demonstration version of Cameo, which represents a fictional organisation called the Bristol Brunel Association, and this is their fake website. And what we're aiming at doing is to have a sign-up page on which we put a form here where somebody can enter their details and sign up as a contact to the organisation. Cameo Forms won't provide every possible field and every possible layout that you might want, but they act as a way of reducing a barrier to providing the basics, and that's done in a way that's customizable, both fields and the order in which they appear and the text and captions on them. And it's suited to any website, and in particular WordPress is a very common option, and this is a WordPress site, so we will be looking at some of the WordPress features, but you can add it to any website. It adopts the style of the website, the fonts, the boxes for input and so on, but you can, if you want to, delve into CSS to add further styling and to adjust the styling that's provided for you. So I'm going to do things a little bit back to front here. I'm going to create a form to start with and show you how to use it, and then there's some one-off setup you need to do, which I'll cover at the end. You only need to do that once. So forms are found on the main menu, and we're concerned with manage forms to start with. And we're going to create a new contact form. So I choose contact off the menu and just press new form. And then we have lots of details in here that we can fill in to configure, to customize the form. To start with, I'm just going to turn it on and choose the essential field, which is the contact type it's going to create, which is going to be follower. You could have separate contact forms in different contexts which create different contact types, but we'll just stick with the one for the moment. And the name of the form is actually the same as its type here. That's fine. We might have contact 2 later on or something like that, but we'll stick with contact for now. So we won't further configure it, we'll just see what we get out of the box, and to do that we go install forms now. There we are, the forms are now ready for use, so I'm going to go to the website control panel, the website dashboard in WordPress, and I'm going to put the form in a page, in the sign up page that we looked at a moment ago. So to do that we use a WordPress shortcode. If it's not a WordPress site, use a single line of HTML which loads a JavaScript script, and that's given for you at the bottom of the form definition. In our case this is Cameo form equals the name of the form, which is contact, and that's it. We've got the form in our site. But what I'm going to do next is just insert above some text. So it's going to be whatever you like, and I'm also going to put some text below just so you can see how it appears in context. So there we are. So I'm going to update the page in WordPress, and once that's done we can look at the post. So that's as it was originally. I'll refresh the page and there's the form. We've got the text above, we've then got the form that Cameo's inserted and the text below, and we've got 3 fields for name, email, and then a single box for the address, which probably isn't quite what we want, but that's because we haven't done any configuration yet. However, that illustrates that we can get a form onto our website from Cameo. So let's go back to Cameo and do some customization now. The first thing I'm going to do is to look at what we've got. So we can put some text into the top of the form, below that progress bar and above the boxes. We can actually turn those progress indicators off. We can change the text on them here. So let's change that. We've only got 2 steps at the moment because we're not using email validation, which means that we're not sending them an email which they've got to click a link in, and the form was omitting the middle step there. But let's turn email validation on in a moment. So I'll leave that as it is. Now we're asking for name, email, and I've got postcode as being the thing that that address box is actually trying to acquire. So I'm going to change the caption of that one. I'll just change that to postcode. Like that. Saved. And you can also ask for things like if you're a member of an organisation, what your role is in that organisation, and so on, all the kind of things that you might collect for a contact. You might also choose to subscribe them automatically to a list, or to offer them lists to subscribe to. These will be the lists that you've made public in the list section. We haven't got any of those at the moment. And you can also put in what evidence you should store with it, so that you've got an audit trail of how they came to be subscribed to the list. And then how the contact came to be a member in the first place, which goes in the source field in the contact. Now here's the double opt-in, where we send an email to the subscriber and they then have to click a link in it. So let's tick that. And now in order to make use of this, we've got to actually have the email. The prompt here says now check your email, but what does the email look like? Where do we get it from? Well, the answer is we go to the communications template section and we copy an example email, make a copy of that, and this is going to be email validation. And the audience is going to be from the services forms. This is how it knows that it should be the validation email for a contact form. So this is what links it to the form. We're not going to do it by post as equivalence. We're not going to, or maybe we should CC it. And we'll change the subject to we won't CC it at this stage. Now, in terms of the contact details, let's delete the old text. I'm going to keep this simple, but you need to be aware that there's only a limited number of substitutions we can use at the moment. Basically, if you're collecting their name, you can use their name, and if you're collecting their email, you can use their email, but because they haven't actually been added as a contact yet, you can't use any of the other things that you would normally find in a form. All we want at this point is to get them to click a link. So please click this link to verify your subscription. And where does the link come from? Well, to do that, the form supplies it in a special substitution, which is insert extra. Various things use insert extra when they're coming from other parts of the system to substitute something that's specific to that particular context. And that should be sufficient now. We should be able to send the email. So let's go back to forms a minute. We made a few changes to the forms, so we need to republish those. And they're now ready for use, and we already have the form on the page, so we can just refresh that and we will see that it's changed to name, email and postcode. So let's just follow this through now. So your name, thinks about it for a moment, and then says now check your email. The words in that green box came from the form definition, so you could change those to be whatever you prefer. So let's go and look at the email. And I cheated a bit here, I opened it earlier on in fact, but you can see that this is the email that would have been sent, and here's the cryptic link that we need to click in order to confirm that we do want to subscribe. So let's click that. This will be fairly familiar to anybody who's used such a form, and there we are. It says thank you for signing up, we've sent you an email to confirm, or whatever wording you want. In fact, I didn't have an email sent to confirm, so I should change that text. Let's go and do that. So near the bottom, I just want to remove that. We have sent you an email to confirm. If you did want to send an email, you do exactly the same with a different template and just tick the send email confirmation box down there. So there we are. We now have a contact signed up. It's sitting waiting for us to bring into Cameo, and either periodically or the next time the page is opened in Cameo, it will actually be imported. So I'm just going to refresh the page to make that happen, because normally you wouldn't be sitting over this waiting for it to happen. And if we look at our reminder messages, there we are, it's arrived. It's number 2608, and if we look at it, there's Fuzzy Bear. It says it's come from contact sign up form, and that wording came from the form definition. We've got their name and email, when they were added, the postcode that they put in, and all the usual stuff. So that's how to create a contact form. The other forms are very similar. You create a new form and configure it, install it, and then embed it within your website. Now let's look at how to set the whole thing up in the first place, which you only need to do once. When you install forms, what happens is they go to a third site, the Forms server, which acts as an intermediary between Cameo and your public website. So this is the model. Cameo on the left installs forms onto the Forms server. That can be used to embed forms in the public site. Information from that comes back to the Forms server and then back to Cameo. Why do we use a separate Forms server? Well, doing it this way means that Cameo doesn't need to access your website at all, and there are so many different variations of websites that makes it difficult. But by doing it in this way, we can adopt your website style without knowing anything very much about it. In principle, Cameo could be the Forms server, but Cameo often runs on low-powered servers, and adding publicly accessible pages might overwhelm it. But it's quite likely that the Forms server will run on the same physical server as your public website. Indeed, it's also possible, where it's got enough power behind it, it could run on the same server as Cameo. And if you really can't manage either of those, then it's possible to actually make the Forms server a subsidiary set of pages, though they're not ones that an end user would see, within the public website itself under the same URL. So the first thing I'm going to do is to look at setting up the Forms server in the first place. First thing to note is that your domains, your websites, need to operate over HTTPS. That is, they have the padlock to show it's secure. With forms, you're collecting personal information, and the law requires that these be kept secure, and this is one aspect of that. You don't have to pay for the certificates that operate an HTTPS site. They're available free from let'sencrypt.org, and your provider, if you're on a shared server, should be able to help you set that up. How you actually set up your Forms server depends very much on your provider. If you're on a shared host, then your provider will very often either create it for you or give you a control panel from where you can create it yourself. There's one very common piece of software called cPanel where you might do that, or you might just put files onto the server using a secure file transfer program. To create a folder on the Forms server where data from the forms can be stored. It's important this is separate from the website itself, so that it can't be accessed from anybody's browser. So I'm using here a program called Forklift, which is just a way of transferring files from my computer to the server. And on the right we've got the server files, and you'll see there's already a folder called demoforms.cameomembership.uk_html, which is where the website files are stored. We've also got the public website on here, which are these files in demo www.cameomembership.uk_html. But I want to create a data folder similar to the demo forms one. So I'll file, new folder, and demo forms.cameo_membership.uk_data. So there it is alongside the HTML. Then I need to tell Cameo where both that directory is and the URL of the server, where it is. So I go to installing and using forms. I need to do this once, and the URL is https://demoforms.cameo membership.uk, and the directory we just created was in home cameo demo forms.cameo membership.uk_data. And that's sufficient now. Cameo now knows where to put its files and where to put the data. We now have to give Cameo access to the server from the server end. So if you have access to the command line on the server, you can use the command that's given here to pull the file that's needed from Cameo to the server. But because we don't here, we're going to push it instead by downloading it here from the browser. There it is. And then uploading it to the server, which we go back to Forklift. So here we are, there's the download file that I just created. There's the HTML directory, so I'm just going to transfer one to the other, like so. And if we look in there, we've now got the Forms installer in there. So going back to Cameo now, we can choose to install forms now. We could wait to do this until we've got the first form, but we might as well put the basic software in there first. So check it's all working. This takes a moment the first time because it's got to transfer all the payment processors files as well as the Cameo files, but it's quicker the second time you do it. And then we'll just visit that site, just see what we've actually got there. And there it is. And you'll see if you try and visit it with an ordinary browser, you just get a message. But if you use it through Cameo, it can move files between the Forms server and the main public site and Cameo. And because this is WordPress, we can embed forms in the site using a WordPress plugin. If it isn't WordPress, then there are instructions on each form page as to how to embed it. It's one line of JavaScript that goes onto each page where you need a form. So the first thing I need to do then is to log in to the public site, WordPress admin. There we are. And if I now go to plugins, installed plugins, we can see there's very little there at the moment. So I'm now going to add a new plugin, and I'm going to upload it from Cameo. And obviously I have to have something to upload, so we'll go back to Cameo again, and under WordPress plugins here, we'll see that we have a Cameo Forms plugin, which we will click to download. There it is, downloaded there. And now if you can see it's downloaded in the download directory, if I go back to the control panel, plugins, I can choose the file, from downloads, Cameo Forms.zip, and install it. Once it's installed, we activate it. This is a normal way of putting a WordPress plugin in. And there we are. We now have a Cameo Forms plugin which allows me to insert, using a WordPress shortcode, the forms that we create. The Forms plugin here is unique to the version of Cameo and the Forms server that you're using. You can't use the same plugin with any other version of Cameo or any other Forms server. You must get a separate copy for each one because it has information about where the Forms server is built into it. So that's it. We've seen how to create a form in the first place, to add it to your public website via the Forms server, and then how to actually set the whole thing up in the first place, which you only need to do once.